This video was made on the International Women's Day, so wishing a very happy Women's Day to everyone out there, even if you are watching it some other day. This is a gentle reminder to be kind to the lovely women around you. And in the next 8 minutes of your life, I'll explain you that how horror is proven to be the most feminist genre, with being really empowering for all kinds of women out there. The point I want to highlight is that mostly in the last decade, we've been subjected to films that had genuinely horrifying stories to tell without using the rape scene as the USP or only using women to be scared or to scream. So I am here to tell you how empowering the last 10 years have been for women in the history of horror films. Let's start with such a film where the feminism thought is not quite visible, The Babadook. On the surface, it may just look to you as a film which takes us through the almost depressing lives of Amelia and her son Noah, but as we know that it's written and directed by a woman, so we also get to see a large number of female characters in the film. We also see Amelia taking charge of her bodily needs. As there isn't anybody in her life at the point, it highlights how strong she has become mentally, and it's great to see that she doesn't beg anyone to take care of her or her son. In a scene where she is seen with her husband closely, it shows how much she longs for him and his touch, but at the same time, she clearly wouldn't sacrifice her son or even surrender in order to get that physicality of love again. While rewatching the film for its feminist aspects, I also noticed how flawed Amelia is as the protagonist of the story and how she is dealing with a lot in life, but still she tries her best to cope up with everything that's going on and raises her tantrum throwing son with so much difficulty but more love. On the contrary, if we look at Bulbul, the 2020 Indian film by one of my favorite filmmakers, Anvita Dutt, we see how much it deals with the fragile mindset of a young girl deprived of the motherly love. Where women in this country are called out as Judels for not complying with the patriarchal norms made by the male-led society, what we see in Bulbul is the divine form of goddess Kali that resides behind the so-called Judel and keeps killing men who have wronged women, which is of course not preachy at all but satisfying undoubtedly. Bulbul is a rape revenge horror film, but not just that. It doesn't get its rape scene marketed as a mere scene of making out. Instead, that scene is used to build tension and horror behind the reason of a naive, innocent and wronged Bulbul transforming into a justice-seeking Devi. To look beyond Bulbul as a rape revenge drama can be difficult for some people, but when you pay close attention to the minute of the details or the characters, you see why this film is hailed to have a feminist narrative. That is because it shows कि क्या होता है जब किसी बच्चे को बहुत ही कम उम्र में या समय से पहले ही अपनी सराउंडिंग्स के वजह से बड़ा होना पड़ता है. Means it shows how Bulbul is thrown into a sea of troubles, starting off with child marriage to pedophilia and mental trauma for life. But she becomes liberated in her own right by punishing the wrongdoers. So in this industry, which is packed with male gaze, here it was, the perfect marriage between women and horror. And as we are talking about witches so much, let's discuss witchcraft also. For the unversed, witchcraft is basically Jadoo Tona. So in the 2016 film, The Love Witch, we see a woman who practices witchcraft in 1960s as the movie is set in that time period. And I can't resist saying that the film is visually stunning. And to be honest, the film was getting annoying, but why I still mentioned it here has a reason. This wacky and pulpy film by Anna Biller has a femme fatale in the lead who goes through pretty much what the most young women go through, but the way she reacts to it is something to marvel upon. The most significant thing that the film wishes to tell is the way patriarchy can brainwash a woman can become very dangerous. What exactly happens with the protagonist. Therefore, it pleads women in its way to be unapologetic, bold, and happy in their own right, rather than depending on men to achieve that satisfaction. As we are already talking about flawed and bold women, let's also talk about the most misunderstood female character in horror films. Any guesses? Yep, it's Jennifer from Jennifer's Body. The young student who had to go through the insanity of a group of musicians who were performing some satanic ritual which demanded the sacrifice of a virgin woman, which Jennifer was not. What's more unsettling is that those men took the young drunk girl in a van at night, and the next thing we know that she's tied to be sacrificed by them. The fact that the film has its roots much deeper than just the rape revenge trope needs highlight. There's also no denying that Megan was hypersexualized in the film in order to sell it well, but still it flopped, being the biggest lesson to market something as it is, but in a clever way, not just contributing to mass needs. Here, Jennifer is actually the one who's been wronged, and she's now on the rage, but definitely she's not the villain. Good thing is that we not only see honey-trapped men, but also a sensible guy like Chip here, which makes this tale more real and believable. Also, the traces of bisexuality that are found in the film is totally understandable, meaningful, and seems too good to me. Also, an Indian film which I'd love to talk about now is Pari, where Pari is actually the victim and not the wrongdoer. Basically, sex trafficking that was visualized in the film showed the horrific reality of being born in that condition and then struggle to survive. Still, she manages to live, and the way she embraces her sexuality and little things she does for Arnab made my heart full. Unlike all the other films I mentioned, this was directed by a man. Ruxana, this woman, who was supposedly a witch, gives birth to a human child, which is the ultimate win for her against the patriarchy, which always wanted her to reproduce beings of her own kind or be killed. अच्छा, मेल डायरेक्टर से याद आया, there are two movies of Ari Aster that I would love to talk about. Number one is MidSummer. I know, not many of you think of it as a horror film, as it involves daylight horror, no jump scares, and various rituals. But there's no denying that it's very unsettling and a hell of a frightening experience. But the thing which made me happy to the core was seeing how people and critics reacted to the ending of this film. They seemed to be so satisfied, they loved it, and how. Although it was not something a sane person should love, but the classic case of the brilliant establishment of characters by Astor is what was present here. It's obviously impossible to tell everything that I have in mind about this movie in this video. I'll have to make another one for that. Just one thing that I loved about the movie the most was the shared pleasure and pain among different women who cried out together, marking the making of their own clan, their own family, which demands no one else but only them with their desires. The second film that I would love to talk about is Hereditary, a very complex film, to be honest, for quite mature audiences, and clearly I couldn't understand a few things about it and its conveyance of the underlying message about women. But what I do know is that it has a matriarchal setup and a feminist narrative running through it. To be honest, I watched it because of a review headline that hailed it as the scariest movie of all time. But no, it was not that way for me. Not even in terms of disturbance. MidSummer has been the most disturbing experience I've ever had. Lastly, why we can say that women are changing in horror films? That is, let's take Hereditary's case. There are no scream queens, no damsels at all, no sexually naive women. Here we see how the family gets destroyed, so there is sympathy, but mostly there is satisfaction in seeing a matriarch, which is somehow empowering. So that was mostly it. I have so many more films to talk about, but everything cannot be contained in this single video. So do tell me if you liked it or not, and if you would like to see more video essays like this in the future. Thank you for your time. I love you all. Please do subscribe.